for two. Kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two. Sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving here with. Ooh, listen to this. Multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo! This is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo!
What is going on, guys, and welcome to episode 258 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. We are, of course, presented by the Going for Two Live Podcast Network, and we are live here every Wednesday night on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch, on all major podcast networks, and in the Going for Two app for iOS and Android. If you are currently on Twitter and you want to interact with the show, our comments are not working currently, so you have to go find us on YouTube. Just search for Going for Two Live. We'll pop up pretty easily there. Let me introduce my co-host, as usual, Mr. Ryan Searfoss. Follow him on Twitter at Foss534. What's up, Ryan?
Oh, not much. I just realized how terrible of a co-host I am. I just realized I didn't notice we changed our intro, and I assume it wasn't this week.
Yeah, we changed it 2 weeks ago, I think, actually. It's been on and out the second time in a row.
It looks great, though. I was excited to watch it. I was like, oh, man, this is so nice. We don't have dated players now.
Yeah, no more dated players. It's yeah. Well, I don't know. Debo Samuel was in that thing there. He might be dated by the time we do our next show. Who knows?
Just copy and paste Brandon Ayuk's name on number on there.
There you go.
I don't know.
There you go. All right. Also joining us tonight for the first time, he is host of the Devy Deep Dive podcast and creator of the Devy Dashboard on YouTube. You can follow him on Twitter at Devy Deep Dive. It's Brandon Lejeune. What's up, Brandon?
Hey, thanks for having me on tonight. We're close to the NFL draft season, right? It's what we've all been waiting for months, especially as Devy guys. We've been looking at these prospects for, I don't know, it seems like forever. So I'm super excited for the draft. I appreciate the invite to come on and talk about some of these rookie landing spots.
Good stuff. All right. Well, go ahead and give my listeners a little rundown of what you do in the fantasy space and what the Devy Dashboard YouTube channel does and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I got into podcasting probably a couple years ago. It's the Devy Deep Dive podcast and focus on Devy players, college, C2C. Love to introduce new guys who want to dabble from Dynasty into the Devy space. I think it's like the next step for Dynasty fans. I got a great YouTube channel. It's called Devy to Dynasty Football. I'm really passionate about making films, game films. I did some spring game films of some college games that were happening this past weekend. So I just like introducing, I like the film grind. I'm a film grinder versus more of an analytic guy when I look and scout players. So I was always kind of frustrated with the ability of only seeing highlight films out there, and to really scout players. I felt that there was a need out there to, make player game films and really break down player tape so you could really kind of get a good view when you are watching some of these players. So I appreciate, again, the invite to come on here. And like I said, I enjoy my podcast. My YouTube channel is growing pretty good. And I got a Devy Dashboard, which is basically a big database of 700 college players in it. It's a research center for you really getting a leg up on your competition. If you are playing Dynasty and never played Devy, it's a great way to get an early look at some of these players that we're going to talk about tonight.
Nice. Good stuff. All right. Let's get right into it.
And now, the five 101s.
All right. You know how this works. 5 categories not related to fantasy football or football at all. Give us your 101 in that category. Brandon, first one here is your 101 adult beverage.
Yeah, I'm going to probably be a bore on this particular question because when it comes to alcohol and beverages, I'm a really simple Miller Lite draft guy and a Miller Lite bottle guy, and I sip some Honey Jack, and that's really about it. I am not into the craft beer scene. I don't do a lot of mixed drinks, so I'm just a pretty much a beer drinker, and the guys on the dashboard know I do my best film work after I've had a couple of beers. So yeah, so for me, my adult beverage 101 is just going to be my go-to. It's just a Miller Lite beer and a little thing of honey jack to sip along with it.
It's a good golf beer.
Yeah, it's good golf beer. I know, like I get grilled all the time. The guys tease me all the time on the dashboard Slack chat and everything that they all know that I'm just a simple beer drinker. So yeah, nothing too exciting when it comes to the adult drink in my aspect.
Hey, that's the same with me. I'm a beer guy myself. I don't do the Miller Lite, but I got a Blue Moon. So I mean, it's pretty basic.
Yeah, there you go.
Jeff's fancy.
I'm fancy. All right, what is your 101 duo?
I think if I could really, I think my number one duo is probably, I gave this a lot of thought. It was Jimmy Page and Robert Plant. They are my two guys. I'm a Led Zeppelin head. I'm a big classic rock guy. And if there was anybody that I could meet, it would probably be Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, to sit with them, smoke a joint with them, have some beers with them, have some honey jack with them. That would be the all-time best.
That's awesome. That's a good one right there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If there was one question you could ask and be given the 100% absolute truth to that question, what would your 101 question be?
Yeah, this was pretty easy for me. I said, I want to ask Howie Roseman if he really believes in Jalen Hurts, right? So living in Philadelphia, the sports media town here is half the city is out on Jalen Hurts. Half the town thinks like, let's give him a shot. And Howie has given a lot of mixed signals, doing his due diligence with these rookies that we're going to talk about here shortly, but a lot of questions about whether or not they really believe trading one of their third round picks to next year. Everyone's talking about it here in Philly, that they're doing that to kind of, hedge their bets for next year if Jalen Hurts doesn't work out this year. But I'm not so sure the quarterback class next year is going to be a whole lot better than this one, from a Devy aspect anyway. So yeah, I'd love to sit down with Howie and say, do you really believe in the guy, or are you throwing up a smoke screen with all of us right now?
Do you believe in the guy?
Yes.
You believe in the guy?
No, as in you, Brandon.
You know what? I'm a very patient man. I mean, I'm like 70%. Yeah, let's give him a shot, because I just don't know what better options there are really out there, and I think if this team could really lean on the running game, and build a defense, I think you might be able to win with him. But I'll tell you, I feel like half the teams in the NFL right now just are dying for a new opportunity. Look, we're going to look at these 5 guys coming in tonight. We're going to talk about landing spots for these rookie quarterbacks. And in reality, this time last year, we thought Howell and Corral and these guys were going to be top tier picks. And here we are. Everyone's thinking they're going to be faded in the first round. So I just don't know what better options there are. So I'm willing, as an Eagles fan, to roll the dice with the guy and give him one more year, 2 more years. Let's see. But like, what do I really want Trubisky? I mean, more than Jalen Hurts? Not really. So I'm willing to roll with it. I think you can win with him, and let's see if he can develop. I know he's been out in California all off season, really working with his timing and his decision making. So let's see what he does.
All right, good stuff. All right, 2 more here. Fictional character you'd like to meet in real life.
I want to sit at the diner with George Costanza of Seinfeld.
Nice.
I'd love to sit with Kramer. I'd like to sit with Julia Roberts. She was always hot for me when I was watching Seinfeld. It was like one of my favorite shows. So I would love to sit with Kramer, Seinfeld, the whole crew in the diner.
Nice.
George Costanza, because he was such a great character on that show. So.
Absolutely. That would be awesome for sure.
Yeah.
All right, last one here. Superpower, if you can have one, which one would it be and why?
I would like to be invisible. I'd like to be the invisible man, because then I would go to the NovaCare Center down here in Philadelphia, and I'd love to sit in on the draft room with Howie for the upcoming draft. Nice. I'd like to be invisible and just sit right in the room and look at the war room. Because, when we took Jalen Reagor 2 years ago and we passed on Justin Jefferson, right? I mean, no one's been able to let it go in this town, right? I mean, there was a little clip, I don't know if you guys remember, where Howie went to one of his scouts and there was a little bit of a discrepancy and there was a little bit of unhappiness. And I feel as though I think the scouts really wanted Jefferson and maybe Howie wanted Reagor, but nonetheless, I'd love to be invisible, to sit actually in the war room for an entire draft, just to see the entire process. I think it'd be fascinating.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah, that's the first time I think we've gotten invisible before, but that's the first time someone's given us an actual scenario of which they would use it for.
It's because he wasn't. It's because he wasn't using it for evil.
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
how most people use being invisible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's get into some football stuff.
News and notes from around the league.
News and notes, as always, brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. It's fantasy football with no waivers, no setting lineups, and no worrying about injuries. With their best ball leagues, you can do the fun part, and that's draft. It's like a mock draft you can win money from. Get the Underdog app for iOS or Android. Use our promo code GF2 and get a 100% deposit match up to $100. For as low as $3, you can join one of our Going for Two leagues or any of the other contests in the lobby, including their rookies and sophomores tournament with over $100,000 in prizes. All you got to do is get the app, use promo code GF2, get your deposit match, and start playing today. All right, right at the top here, I had to change the show sheet because we had some rumors today around Mr. Deebo Samuel and some trade rumors, and he wants out, et cetera, et cetera. I'm gonna go to you first, Brandon. Give me some of your thoughts on this here.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. We were talking pre-show about Christian Kirk, right? And this like whopping contract that he had, setting the bar high for all of these other guys. And I don't know. I feel as though you're a rookie, you're drafted, you should be privileged to play in the NFL. I know it's money, I know it's contracts. I'd like to see these guys just play out their original contracts. Like, I don't like it when people hold out to get more money. I feel like for these particular guys, they got a second contract coming. A lot of them weren't even drafted in the first round. So they're on their third or fourth year, I guess, for a lot of these guys. You have here Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin. I feel like they're all ganging up now. Been like, oh my God, look at the money Christian Kirk got. Well, I want a piece of that pie too. You know, I mean, money talks. I get it. Everybody wants to get as much as they can. It's a very limited time you're playing in the NFL, and certainly understand. It's going to be interesting to see, you know, I think the Tyreek Hill situation, let's look at that real quick. The fact that the Kansas City Chiefs, you know, when you got Mahomes, you're probably not going to be able to play for two marquee players. I still really believe that, you know, defenses win championships in the end. And if I'm an owner, I'm going to really build the defense. And so I can see maybe a lot of these players, you know, if they're going to hold out, that would be disappointing. But if I'm an owner, I think I'm holding firm with these guys unless you really truly believe in them. And for an owner, I think you have to look at the market and say to yourself, well, in 2 years, is it going to be maybe another 5 or 6 million? Do you cave to some of these players and renegotiate? And if you have a good relationship with them and you think they're along, you know, and you're in that process to win right now, it might be, you know, something some of these owners would do. But it'll be really interesting to see. But with all this big money being thrown around, I can see guys feeling like they're undervalued on their rookie contract. So it's not unexpected.
Yeah, good stuff. So Ryan, I think you must have been the one to hit that sound drop there. I saw the smile on your face when you hit that. You've been waiting all show to do that. What are your thoughts here on Deebo?
I mean, obviously it's a great pickup for a team if they do it. I was set back when he said that he only wanted to be used as a wide receiver. He didn't want to be doing the multiple roles like that. That's what makes Deebo so special.
Yep.
Like, yes, he's a very good receiver and a potential wide receiver one for a team, not taking that away. But the thing that made him what he was is how versatile he was, how they were able to put him in any situation. They just know they had to give him the ball. Like, everybody has something that made it special, whether it's Tyreek Hill's neck-breaking speed or just Devontae Adams being overall one of the best receivers in the league. They got paid because that. If you take away his possibly best trade, that hurts the value a little bit in my eyes.
Yeah.
And if he goes to a team, what if they do decide they want to use it that way? Is that going to cause a rift? Like, these are questions that are going through my head for it. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to get the money he wants where he goes because of that. And if they do, it might be a bad investment.
Yeah, and I think I've heard like the Jets and the Texans thrown around. I mean, is that really really where you want to end up? I mean, you can get paid, but
I don't think the Jets is that bad of a landing spot, honestly. If you believe in Zach Wilson a little bit, which I do, they have a lot more. They have a ton of draft capital. They could really turn that team around a lot. They have a young core, and Deebo would be really nice for it. But are they going to use Deebo right? Which honestly should get the coaching staff because he's familiar with it.
Yeah.
But
I guess in the eyes of Deebo Samuel, if he could get paid a lot more money and have less wear and tear, and does he really care in the end? I mean, you know, from our standpoint, being selfish as fantasy players, sure, we're like, oh damn, he might lose a little value. But in his eyes, if he doesn't have to take the pounding and deal with all that running interior, if I'm him, I'm looking like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to be an outside receiver, work me in the slot, get me out in space, out, you know, in the secondary, but not so much run in between the tackles. So I mean, I certainly understand where he's coming from.
And the Jets were so close to Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
They were right there, and they gave him the choice, and they offered a little bit more. So I wouldn't be surprised if they threw a big offer at it.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. And as a Niners fan, as much as I don't want to see Debo go, I think if for us to pay that money, I think could handicap our team a little bit. We are a pretty young team. One game from Super Bowl last year. I don't know if I want to dish out Devontae Adams type money to a receiver that's had one really good season. I'm torn. Yeah, I love Debo. He's one of my favorite players to watch. Obviously, very exciting year this year. And if he goes,
you liked Ayuk before last season. It's okay. Would you be happy if they got 35, 38, and 69 for him?
35, 38, 60. Yeah, I could do that.
Because that's what the Tyreek Hill offer was.
Yeah, that's a pretty good offer there. And like I said, receiver I think has the least impact on an offense as far as skill players go, in my opinion. Quarterback obviously number one. The tight end obviously is really important because of the run game, and then the running backs in general, I think, especially in that offense, are very important. So if we lost Debo, I don't think it would hurt us as much as like losing, a George Kittle, or even like on the defensive side, if we lost Nick Bosa. If we pay Debo, we can't pay Nick Bosa too, and we lose him. I think it has a bigger impact overall on our team. Fancy wise, like you mentioned, if he goes somewhere where he's not running, is he as valuable as he was before? Obviously not. And speaking of that, let's just lump these four guys together here, Brandon. I want to give you a chance to kind of, if you're an owner of one of these guys, Debo, AJ Brown, Deontay Johnson, Terry McLaurin, they're all sort of in that range where they're kind of maybe possibly going to hold out for a new contract. If you're an owner in a dynasty league, what do you do with this news? Like, are you trying to get out of them? Are you going to hold them? Like, what is your thought process when this happens to your guys?
I don't know. I don't think, going back to the Debo situation for the 49ers, I'll comment on real quick. I mean, you got Trey Lance. If you're thinking about starting this guy, you got to provide him some weapons. I mean, they got Ayuk and, the Elijah Mitchell, but if you really want to see Trey Lance develop, to take away a special weapon like that may not be in your best interest. But as far as me, if I have shares of all of these guys, and right now I don't think I'm going to hit the panic button and trying to sell and get out from underneath. I mean, they could land in better situations. There's a risk. I mean, all of their quarterbacks are kind of, Terry McLaurin. I mean, Washington, we got Wentz, the guy from the Eagles there, and AJ Brown. Tannehill is an elite. He kind of took a step back last year. We felt like a little bit from previous years. So it's possible if they did get traded, they might land in a better situation, but there's not that many great quarterbacks out there that I think are going to really feed them the ball, maybe in better situations that they're in. But I'm just going to have to wait and see, unless somebody got an offer who really loved one of these players that made me an offer that I just couldn't refuse. And I felt the value was there. I would certainly move them. But I don't think I would actively move them right now unless I was really rich in wide receiver, maybe needed to build my running back depth or something like that. So I'm not going to hit the panic button just yet.
Yeah, I think if there's two teams right now in the league that I think if either of these receivers were sort of linked to either one of these, even as like a rumor, to the Packers or to the Chiefs, their value would extremely skyrocket.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
You'd be trying to sell them for what you could get for them. Ryan, what are your thoughts on these four guys? If you're an owner, are you just holding right now?
If I'm an owner of these four guys, I'm hoping they all leave. Like, you mentioned Tannehill and Commander Carson. They're mediocre at best quarterbacks. They're in that bottom tier. Mitch Trubisky's in that bottom tier. Dude, like, you probably have a 75% chance of them landing somewhere better. Like, that's a lottery ticket with really good odds.
My guess is they probably have some sort of clause that they're not going to go to a bad team. They'll have some choice in the matter. I'm guessing. I don't know if their contracts state that or not, but they won't get traded to a team that's terrible. They'll go somewhere that's pretty decent.
Like, we even talked about the Eagles before the show with Brandon Eagles saying if they got another receiver, if they got an AJ Brown, I'd be ecstatic.
Yeah,
because of that running offense, and I mean, Tennessee still refused to pass that much last year and use Debo. He only had 800 yards there last year. Like, I'm not excited about that. Terry McLaurin's been capped, and Carson Wentz doesn't do it for me. And by getting him, they're not going to be replacing it sometime soon. And I don't know if it's this year. It's going to be anything I'd be that happy about. So, yeah, I hope they leave. Even when the Saints with Jameson, I'd be more excited.
Yeah, good point. All right, so what we're going to do tonight on the show, we're going to talk about rookie landing spots. And it's easy for us to, look at some of these guys and think, some of the dream spots that we can put them in. We can basically put all the running backs with the Bills and say that they're going to be good there. So tonight we're going to do a little bit different. We're going to pick landing spots, but once you pick a landing spot for a certain position, we can't use that position or that spot again. Let me bring up the spreadsheet here so we can take a look at this. So as you can see here, we'll go with the quarterbacks to start. On the left-hand column there, we got the 5 quarterbacks. On the right-hand column, I have most of the teams that are quarterback needy in some respect. And as we go through these, we'll go through them one at a time. And each of you will pick a landing spot for them, and then we'll eliminate that team for landing spots from the rest of the quarterbacks. And since you're the guest here, Brandon, we're going to go to you first here. So where do you want Malik Willis to go?
Do we want this more realistic, or do we want this like...
We'll kind of do a little bit of both. Realistic landing spot along with fantasy. Like if it's something that's sort of outlandish, then we won't go with that. But if it's semi-realistic, we can see it happening, and it's obviously good for fantasy, then we'll go with that for dream spots.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is a realistic thing. I would like to see Malik Willis go to the Steelers, personally. I think first of all of these quarterbacks, I've been watching these guys for the last 6-7 months, right? And I don't think any of them are day one starters personally. I mean, they might be forced into their situation, but I think all of these players, wherever they go, they should all sit a year. And I know the impatient owners and fans don't want to hear that, but I think in reality, I think it's best for development. We've seen that with Rodgers and Mahomes. I think Malik Willis, I'd like to see him if he would fall. I mean, I've seen mock drafts where he is falling with Pickett maybe going earlier to possibly the Steelers. But I think with Najee there, with a good running game, I think there's stability in the organization. I'd like the coach. I mean, they've got receivers. Yeah, they lost Schuster, but they still got Johnson, Claypool, his flash last year, Freiermuth, good tight end. I think he has the weapons. But the best friend of a quarterback to me is the running game. So I'd like to see Malik Willis go to the Steelers in that situation.
All right. Ryan, I'm going to get your opinion on this since you're in Pittsburgh. Malik Willis to the Steelers. How excited are you about that? I know you're not a fan, but... you would hate it.
It sucks and I hate it because I don't want the Steelers to do well. I'd rather them draft someone terrible. It'd be a great fit. Tomlin absolutely loves him. Like I can honestly see him maybe trying to trade up for him. I really do think that they've done their due diligence on quarterbacks.
Yeah, I famously seen that TikTok or that tweet that they had when he threw that 80-yard bomb or whatever it was in the pro day, and you see Tomlin's face like light up. You could just tell he was like, "Whoa, look at that." So, yeah, I think Tomlin definitely likes his kids, so it could be a good landing spot for sure. All right, Ryan, you got Matt Corral. Where you got Matt Corral going?
I'm putting Matt Corral with Saints. I think he could go in that area. He has a strong enough arm to push the ball downfield. He makes good decisions. He's just athletic enough. I think their system doesn't have to really change that much for him. And I think with coming in there with Kamara as that safety valve and Michael Thomas, he has a little bit to work with there. I think he could do pretty well there, and I think it'd be a nice transitional pick for him, and he could sit a year comfortably.
Yeah, let me ask you, Brandon, because you just mentioned that all these guys should sit. Is that a good spot for Matt Corral to sit behind Jameson Winston, you think?
I think it'd be a prudent decision. I mean, I'd like Corral. I mean, this time last year, there were people thinking that Corral was going to be him and Spencer Rattler, arguably maybe the top guy taken off the board. I do. I think it definitely has validity. I mean, the Saints, my only concern is I don't know what the situation was with Kamara. I know he was in trouble or something. I don't know if he's going to miss any time this year or not. I guess I'm just worried about what their passing options are. Again, if he were to go on there, Michael Thomas, we don't know what's going on with him. That other guy, Callaway, was there. But, if in fact, Kamara loses any time for the trouble that he's in, and I'm not sure that is going to happen or not, I think it'd be rough sledding for him. They have a new coaching staff this year, but I don't really know what kind of system that new coach is going to run or anything like that. So I don't know, but I would be a little concerned just because I'm looking for landing spots that have a good running game and pass receivers that can help a young quarterback develop. And I'm not sure the Saints is that location.
All right. Good call. All right. You got Kenny Pickett, Brandon. Where are you putting Kenny Pickett?
Well, everyone says he's going to go to the Panthers. Again, with Sam Darnold looking like the potential starter. I'm just going to go with, I think, the Panthers. I think, you got DJ Moore there. You got CMC again going on the theory that the best friend of a quarterback is going to be his surroundings, his environment, the atmosphere, the context of what system he's playing in. And I feel as though there's at least some stability. I know that coach might be on the hot seat down there. Hasn't really panned out, but I throw Sam Darnold in there for 6 months and let Kenny Pickett and see of all the quarterbacks, it looks like him or Willis are going to be the first ones off the board in a lot of the mock drafts that you see. And most likely they might rush him in, but at least let him sit maybe half the season. But I would think the Panthers are probably looking. I mean, that coach, like I said, his job, I think, is on the hot seat. So I think they might take a quarterback here because Sam Darnold, obviously, I mean, the fact that they're trotting him out there next year, I feel like he is the starter, right? I mean, it's about as bad as it gets. I mean, he's been benched 2 or 3 times already. And PJ Walker, I don't think is anything either. So I'm just going to say, yeah, I think the Panthers are going to reach in the draft, take him at number 6, and hopefully they let him sit, and he turns out even with his small hands.
Yeah, it's crazy too. I don't know who the GM there is, but I remember seeing a stat last year.
He went to Pitt too. The GM.
Oh, he went to Pitt. Is that what you said?
He went to Pitt and recruited him to Vanderbilt.
Oh, there you go. But what I was going to say too with the situation with quarterback is I saw this stat last year at one point when Cam Newton came back that the Panthers were still paying Cam Newton from his first stint with the Panthers, and then they're paying Teddy Bridgewater money still to the Bronco, and then of course they're paying Sam Darnold, and then they paid Cam Newton to come back. So they were paying 4 quarterbacks basically all at once. Those contracts are just terrible contracts. So yeah, getting a rookie quarterback would definitely help them to clear some of that stuff there. All right, Ryan, you got Sam Howell. Where are you putting him?
I think I'm gonna get a little weird on this one, and I'm going to send Sam Howell to the Colts. I know they just got Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's still 38 years old. If Matt Ryan would go down, Sam Howell could step in. He's a smart quarterback. He knows how to protect the football. He's athletic. It's actually pretty damn athletic. And I think he could run that offense successfully with that running game they have. And he could learn there under Matt Ryan, who is all-time vet, and it'd be a good situation for him in the future, and he'd be in a good position to succeed if that would happen. And if not, he could be a top-end backup for him.
All right. What are your thoughts on Sam Howell to the Colts, Brandon?
I mean, I like it. I like the coach that was there, that's there now. I think they made the right choice. They made the bad choice, but then made it right by going after Wentz and then shipping him out after 1 year, knowing that wasn't the answer. So I think it was a good call bringing in Matt Ryan too. And I think it's a good landing spot. Again, for these guys need to sit behind a starter and learn for a year. None of these guys are ready, I think, day one to be out there as a starter. So I like it. I mean, you got Pittman, you got, decent running game. You got arguably the best running back in football to help support the quarterback. So like I said, a running back is a quarterback's best friend. So I think the Colts playing indoors and the good offensive line and the upcoming, the defense is getting better. I think it's a great spot for one of these guys. I'm not sure what the Colts, do they have I know we have their first round pick. Do they have a first round pick?
No,
or do they?
So.
Yeah, I don't think they do.
But I don't think Hal's looking. I mean, he's not mocked at all to go in the first anyway. So if the Colts have
if
a
it is
round
the very end, yeah, 42 is their pick.
Yeah, so I mean, he might be there. I don't know.
All right. So you got the last quarterback on the board here, Desmond Ridder. Where are you putting him at, Brandon?
I was going to say the Seahawks. I think Drew Lock is a stopgap option. They have 2 picks in the second round, pick number 40 and 41. Now, there's a lot of discussion of Ridder being a first round pick now, and I know I think the Seahawks got we traded with the Saints, right? I don't know if the Seahawks, do they have a first round pick or not? I know they have 2 seconds.
They have
they got picks for Russell Wilson, right? Didn't they get some first?
Yeah, they picked 9. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Pick 9. Okay. So I don't know. I mean, the Ridder seems to be this guy. It's amazing when you look at these quarterbacks. I mean, 3 months ago, nobody thought Ridder was even an NFL quarterback. And here he is now all of a sudden going to be maybe the second or third, maybe even the first. I've seen some mocks taken off the board. So the Seahawks, I think they're making moves to really they need. I think if Carroll is going to keep that job long term, I can't imagine they're thinking Drew Lock is the answer. I think, again, Drew Lock is the stopgap. You bring him in, he's got some mobility, kind of like Russell Wilson had some mobility. This guy has the mobility, the big arm. His accuracy issues were a little bit of a concern, in college, but nonetheless, I think the NFL has told us that they're looking for traits and think that they could probably develop some of these guys when it comes to the decision-making and accuracy. So I like the spot, a decent running game. You got Carson. I think they brought Penny back on a 1-year deal. They got DK Metcalf. They've got some wide receivers as well. So I was going to put Ritter maybe with the Seahawks.
All right, Ryan, what are your thoughts on Ritter as a Seahawk?
Yeah, I like it. I don't like him in the first round because obviously for obvious reasons. But if he's like, dude, 40 and 41 makes sense.
Yeah.
And
9 probably too high if they took him at 9.
And he's athletic enough because they never have a good line. He can run for his life there and throw it up to DK Metcalf and Lock. It's a good situation. It's a good situation for any young quarterback with those weapons.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's move on to the running backs. So we got 10 running backs here that we'll try to get through. If we don't get through all of them, we'll get to the receivers as well. And since Brandon, you went first on the last one, I'm gonna go to you this time, Ryan. Breece Hall, where are you putting him at?
I kind of want to be a terrible person and send him to the Texans just to spite people.
Yeah, that would be terrible. Yeah. Well, he's going to get the rock there,
But you know what? I'm going to do it because you know what? He is going to get the rock there. They don't have anything. Protect Davis Mills. Give him somebody to run the ball who's better than Marlon Mack. And also, it would be poetic if Marlon Mack went from being bad for Jonathan Taylor to Breece Hall. But yeah, dude, he'll get the ball 30 times a game there. It may not be efficient, but he's going to get the rock a lot. I like it. I know it's out of spite and it'll drop his ADP, but it'll make that value very draftable. I like that.
All right, good stuff. Breece Hall to the Texans. Give me your thoughts real quick on that, Brandon, and then give me a spot for Kenneth Walker.
I think Breece Hall, it was great. I think the Texans ranked last in rushing last year. So, they're a rebuilding team, and that is very, very bad, Ryan. That is a landing spot, I think. But you're right. As much as we might hate the landing spot, he's going to get fed the ball so much. From a volume standpoint in fantasy, he just might turn out being a gem if he were to land there. Kenneth Walker, I think to me, it's either between the Bills and the Dolphins. I'm going to pick the Dolphins for him. I know they have Chase Edmonds. They signed off from Arizona, and I know he's a nice player, but I really don't think that they're looking at him as a bell cow. And I think with, bringing in Tyreek Hill, they've got Tua, who, half the Dynasty community is already out on the guy. Again, to help Tua, maybe get in the good graces of the Dynasty community again, it'd be really nice to give that man a running game. And I think if they're looking to spend money on Tyreek Hill right now, I think they're spending. I think that they think that they can make some sort of noise in the AFC East and maybe even, contend for a playoff spot next year. So I think Kenneth Walker in Miami would be great. And I think Chase Edmonds is that great third down back. That would be a good compliment to Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker is a really good player.
Yeah, I like that. I like that place as well because, like you mentioned, Chase Edmonds is there and he can take down the passing work, which we're all sort of, not sure if Kenneth Walker can do that part of the game or not. So at least with there, he has that 1-2 punch there with Edmonds. So I like that landing spot. All right, Ryan, you got Isaiah Spiller. Where are you putting him?
So I'm gonna put oh god, I had it in my head and then it just blanked on me. Actually, honestly, I kind of want to see Isaiah Spiller in for the Bills. I think he lands in that sweet spot where they can fill in, work on their secondary a little better there in the draft. And he gives them that, obviously, power running with really good receiving ability. He kind of mixes everything that you have out of the two backs just in him. And I think anybody who lands there should succeed. But they need a guy who can push the power and quit running at 220 pounds. Quit running Josh Allen in the red zone, short and long, because I don't want to see him get hurt. As much like it's cool and fun to watch, but I don't want to see him get hurt. I want to see them get a big running back who can stay on the field and not just a rotational piece. Because if they get somebody who can stay on all 3 downs, it makes that offense so much more dangerous. Instead of when Zach Moss comes in, they're going to run a dive. Like, it's not going to work like that. Get him as a guy who can do everything.
Yeah, I like what you say. I mean, obviously we like Josh Allen for fantasy because he runs the ball, but he won't do you any good if he's sitting on the bench because he got hurt on a run play. So
That's
agreed.
right.
All right, give me your thoughts real quick on Isaiah Spiller to the Bills, Brandon, and give me a landing spot for Rashad White.
I think it's a great spot. I mean, Singletary and Moss, I mean, they're smaller. I mean, Moss kind of lost his steam last year, and Singletary had some nice moments, but he's a little undersized. I think Spiller will bring that physicality to the Bills, like like Ryan was saying, to keep Allen off the goal line, to punch those balls in the red zone. So I think it's a great spot. Rashad White to me, I'm really low on Rashad White versus the Dynasty community. I'm just going to throw that out there. I think that guy really doesn't run well in between the tackles. I think he's a third down back. I think people are labeling him as a 3-down back, and I'm not so sure that's what I see when I watch his film. So I know I'm a lot lower on Rashad White. So I'm going to put him in that third back role and take him to Tennessee. I think he would be a great complement to Derrick Henry. I think they've been trying to find that complementary third down speed back to help Darrington Evans. I think they drafted a couple of years ago. He hasn't panned out, and Derrick Henry isn't getting, any younger. And so, if in fact Rashad White can run in between the tackles and I'm wrong and can be an effective, I think he'd be good enough to spell him for a game or two, but I don't think Rashad White is a guy that's going to come in and get RB1 on a team and have a 3-down role. So I think he'd be a great complement to Derrick Henry. Let Derrick Henry do the physicality in between the tackles, wear down the defense. And Rashad White's calling card is his speed and his pass catching ability. And I think that'd be a great complement in that offense for them to have some sort of weapon come out of the backfield to diversify their offense.
Yeah, I agree there too with what you said about Rashad White. I'm not low on him necessarily because I think this running back class isn't great. So I think I have him as my RB4 currently, but only because of that PPR upside, because I do think that if he can land somewhere like Tennessee where he's going to be, that second running back, I don't need a third, a 3-down back if he's going to be catching a ton of passes, really. So that's kind of the way I look at Rashad White.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, give me your thoughts on Rashad White to the Titans, and then give me a landing spot for Zamir White.
Him to the Titans feels like such a great complimentary piece. Like, it's like what you wanted Darrington Evans to be last year, except a cable back. He has real size. No, I love that pick for him. And then for Zamir White, gosh, this is the second time I've done this in my head. I had the spot and then it just blanked on me. Golly gee, I'm gonna go back to Rashad White for a second. Oh my god, I legit blanked. And
we got the Falcons.
I literally had it in my head and I said it to myself like 14 times and just forgot. Oh, it is the Saints, because that magic they used to have in their backfield when it ran the best. I know Sean Payton's gone, but with Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, Zamir White fills in that role. He can run strong between the tackles. He can push the power. He can take that beating so Alvin Kamara can do his thing. Like, that's what I want to see him in, because I don't know if he's going to be down back. And we saw that Georgia where he split the backfield with James Cook. And I think he could be in that same role in New Orleans, not really miss a beat.
I like it. All right.
I didn't see it on the list, and I just
you're good. You're good. So speaking of James Cook, Brandon, give me a landing spot for James Cook.
Well, James Cook, I think, is an underrated back. I mean, we all like Rashad White for his pass catching ability, but give me James Cook over Rashad White any day, all day when it comes to catching the ball out of the backfield. I think the guy is just as good, if not better. So I think, again, I think James Cook would be an admirable fill-in for a guy who's a thumper for round 1 and 2. So, kind of looking at the list here, I'm going to put him with the Broncos with Javonte Williams. I know Javonte Williams can pass, can catch the ball out of the backfield, but Melvin Gordon, I believe, is an unrestricted free agent. And, they just brought in, what's the guy's name from Seattle, the quarterback.
Russell Wilson.
Blank. Yeah, Russell Wilson. And they're like in a win mode now. So Javonte Williams, I'm sure will get close to 250, maybe even 300 carries next year. But I think James Cook can get lined up in the slot. I think he would be just another dynamic weapon. May not be a great landing spot from a fantasy standpoint with all of those weapons, with the tight end and all the receivers. And you got Sutton and Judy and all of those guys. But I think he needs to go to a team that has a RB1 already established. But if Javonte Williams was to get nicked up and miss a game or two, I think James Cook could easily come in. I think he's got the physicality playing in the SEC to admirably fill in for a game or two. So, I think they're going to need to draft somebody because Javonte Williams, especially if Gordon doesn't come back, they're going to need to have somebody because looking at their roster, it doesn't appear that they've got really anybody on there unless I'm missing somebody good.
Yeah, there's really nothing there. You're right. They got to have somebody behind him for sure. And I like that landing spot for him. Give me your thoughts real quick on James Cook, Ryan, but we're going to leave this as our last running back and move on to the receiver so we can get through some of this other stuff that we got planned for tonight. So give me your thoughts on James Cook to the Broncos.
I'm cool with James Cook anywhere. He's just a weapon, and you can move him anywhere on the field. I like that to complement Javonte Williams. You can keep them both on the field at the same time. No, I'm all for that. All
right, sweet. Let's move to the receivers, and I'm going to go to you, Brandon, first. The first one we have on the list here is Mr. Garrett Wilson. Obviously, he's kind of moved up a little bit since the combine. I think a lot of people had Treylon Burks number one, and then Garrett Wilson kind of came to the combine and jumped him a little bit. So give me your thoughts on Garrett Wilson and where you want to put him at.
Well, I don't think he's going to get out of the top 10, 12 picks. So, given from what I can recall being up that early, I'm seeing him mocked a lot to the Jets. Now, if he were to go to the Jets, I'm going to play a little spoiler here in the beginning. Most people are like, oh, shit, the Jets. Really, the Jets? But for Zach Wilson to be able to continue to develop, they need Corey Davis is a nice player, but I think he's long in the tooth and most likely, on the downside of his career. So I think, surrounding Zach Wilson with Elijah Moore, another weapon. I mean, Garrett Wilson is arguably the best space creator route runner in the class. So I'm going to pick the Jets because I have a feeling that's where he's going to end up going.
All right. So Garrett Wilson to the Jets. Ryan, what are your thoughts on that?
I love it, man. I mean, they'd be so explosive with him and Elijah Moore there together. Yeah, I'm for that. And he deserves to be picked that high.
What about Treylon Burks? Where are you putting him?
I put Treylon Burks to the Steelers. I think he brings a little bit of what they don't have. They have that big body deep threat and Chase Claypool. They have Deontay Johnson, who's the great route runner, works up the middle. They don't have a guy who's just run after catch, kind of a bully. They can create ways for him to get the ball and use him in a versatile way. Like, they can manufacture touches for him to do it on his own. And they don't have that in the offense right now. And I think he'd be a nice complement to what they have. They need another wide receiver because, one, they may not be there with Deontay Johnson much longer. And it's just something very different to add a full Swiss Army knife of weapons on that offense.
I like it. That's definitely out of the norm there. I haven't seen him mocked to the Steelers, but I can see it with your explanation. Pretty good pick there. Give me your thoughts on Treylon Burks to the Steelers, Brandon, and then give me a landing spot for Chris Olave.
I mean, I like it. I think Treylon Burks is primarily going to play in the slot. I have a feeling to start out. He's not, I don't think, the best route runner, but I mean, he is a dynamic weapon, and I think it's a great piece. I know he's comped to Deebo Samuel and all that, and that's not really fair, but we're talking about kind of the versatility. If you've watched him play at Arkansas, I mean, he definitely was, doing sweeps and all that. So I think, anywhere he lands is probably going to be a good thing, if he's used properly by the offensive, scheme there. Chris Olave, I think, is an undervalued receiver in the draft. I think he coming back for his senior year at Ohio State, I think kind of, turns some people off. But nonetheless, I think he is a crisp route runner. I think he's a space creator as well. I'm just looking at the list here of all these teams, and I don't know. I know he's been mocked to a lot of different places, but I'm going to say let's go with maybe the Bears. All right. So I think the Bears have really, again, I'm going back. If you're an organization that you need to help a incoming quarterback, Justin Fields needs help. You got Mooney there and really, really nobody else. So they're, got a new coaching staff this year. They've got everything going on. I mean, Montgomery's a nice running back. I think Olave would be great to go back and play with his former teammate and play with Justin Fields.
I like that. I like that call a lot because you're right, young quarterback there. And I think I saw a stat that PFF tweeted out that Chris Olave had a step and a half of separation on 87% of his routes run last year. So that's a pretty good number. So Olave to the Bears, kind of taking that Allen Robinson role there. I like it. All right, Ryan, give me your thoughts on Olave to the Bears, and then give me a landing spot for Drake London.
I like the idea of Olave to the Bears. I don't know how with them not having a first at this point.
Unless they trade it up.
Unless they trade it up. Because, God, they need to get Justin Fields some weapons.
Yeah.
Like, it's frustrating looking at that offense. If it could happen and they could trade up to get it, which, honestly, at this point, it's worth doing, I'd be all for it. But, yeah, I like that idea a lot. Drake London's weird because I feel like the only team I ever see him mock to is the Jets. Like, every single mock. And I
will tell you that the Washington, D.C., they got really excited about him. He visited recently.
That's what I was about to say is Washington. I think him across from Terry McLaurin complement each other enough. They give Carson Wentz a big-bodied wide receiver, which we've seen him gravitate towards in his career between either Alshon or his big tight ends. And they don't really have that in Washington. I think he'd be very nice for him, and I think they could grow together. And he could be an instant impact there. And McLaurin takes a lot of coverage away.
Yeah, they kind of mentioned Wentz's propensity to throw those kind of guys too. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey was sort of that guy, and he had Pittman, who was sort of that guy as well. And now Drake London could potentially be that guy as well, sort of that bigger receiver, a number 2 receiver. So I like it. What are your thoughts on Drake London to the Commanders there, Brandon?
I mean, I like it. I guess my only concern would be Carson Wentz, right? And how much production we're going to get out of London year 1, year 2 with Carson Wentz, because he's such a streaky kind of player. I mean, he either shows up or he doesn't. So
right.
There could be some frustration with Carson Wentz throwing him the ball. But yeah, so that's I'm really glad because my pick is next, and this draft board fell perfectly for me because I have Jameson Williams next. He's next on my list here, and he's my wide receiver 1 of the class. He has been for months. I love this kid from Bama. I don't care that he didn't get on the field at Ohio State and that whole tired narrative. He's the fastest receiver in the draft as far as I'm concerned, and I think if he didn't tear his ACL, I think he'd be higher on most people's boards. And I want to see my Philadelphia Eagles grab this dude. I want to have the Bama reunion with Devonta Smith. I want to have Jalen Hurts. They all know each other. I think it'd be great. I think the Eagles would be a great landing spot. Again, Jalen Hurts needs weapons. He needs, if this team and the Eagles organization is going to really be able to say, if Jalen Hurts is our guy in the future, you've got to give him a chance to at least have receivers who can make plays on the field. And, Devonta Smith has got the speed, but he's not that deep threat. I think he's more of a possession guy. But I think Jameson can win all over the field and take the top off of defense. So I'm super excited. I mean, Jameson Williams, and I'm really hoping, because I've seen him mocked a lot going to the Eagles. I'm going to be one happy man if my favorite receiver ends up on my favorite team.
I feel like the Eagles are never afraid to take injured guys either. I know kind of been the ass with a little bit of Sidney Jones, but they're
but that was an Achilles, right? That was stupid.
It's not an ACL.
ACLs are, I mean, come on. Pickens came back and everyone comes back from ACLs. Cooper Kupp, they all come back, stronger than ever. So I'm not going to, he's going to be worth the wait as far as I'm concerned.
He's my wide receiver 1A or 1B, depending on what day and how brave I feel. I'm all for it. I love that pick, and he'd be great across from Devonta.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I have the 106 in one of my drafts, and I'm hoping that my league doesn't draft him, in those top 5, thinking because of that injury, so I can get him at that 106 spot there
for sure. Yeah.
All right, let's do a couple more. Ryan, give me your thoughts on a landing spot for Mr. George Pickens.
I'm sending George Pickens. I'm saving you work. You have to move it on the thing. I'm sending the Titans. Their offense, and especially their passing offense, looked much, much better with Corey Davis there, having that big 6'4" frame or 6'3" frame across from AJ Brown to, save their star receiver a little bit. And George Pickens brings a huge frame. He came in, ran much better than they expected. He's still healing up from that injury, which pushed him down the draft charts. But everything's there. He wins at jump ball situations. He can win vertically. He's strong. He does everything you want out of a big receiver. And he'd be so nice across from A.J. Brown, because that's what they show that they like to do, is have big, physical, imposing players in that offense. And he'd work nicely there.
I like it. All right, let's do one more. Brandon, give me your thoughts real quick on Pickens to the Titans, and then give me a landing spot for Christian Watson, who I think at least for me, I know you're a Debbie guy, so maybe you had him a little high already, but he jumped the most on my board after the combine, really almost into the first round of dynasty drafts now with Christian Watson. But give me your thoughts on Pickens, and then give me a spot for Watson.
Yeah, I like the Pickens. I like the landing spot. I have no problem with that. I've been a Pickens fan. We'll have to see. He's got some intangible things that I think some teams might be concerned about. I did a deep detailed film grind on him. He doesn't give an effort all the time, but nonetheless, the physical skills. He's probably the most physical receiver in the draft. I mean, without a doubt. I think playing X receiver, I think he would excel out there. Christian Watson is a guy that I'm probably not as high on as most. I know he ran a big 40 time that kind of vaulted him up into the ranks, but I focus more on wide receivers on short area quickness and burst more than long speed. These guys train for these 40 times. So, but nonetheless, I think he's a raw receiver. I think I'm seeing him mocked, and I know what's going to happen because on my Slack chat, on my Debbie dashboard, everyone knows I'm not a Christian Watson fan. I think he's a little overrated, and I know he's going to end up on the Packers at the end of the first round, and he's going to be probably a top 5 dynasty pick. This is probably the way it's going to roll. So I'm going to say to the Packers, they need wide receivers big time, especially after losing Adams. And I'm sure Rodgers isn't super happy with what he's looking at on the depth chart in the wide receiver room. So I think he is going to sneak into the end of the first round, and I think the Packers are down there. So I think I don't think they've taken a wide receiver in a long time in the first round. So this might be
we looked it up our last show. I think it's been 20 years since they took over.
20 years. Yeah, 20 years. So I think Christian Watson going to the Packers, that will that will solidify his value. He goes to play with Rodgers, and everyone's enamored with the speed. I just think his lack of competition, I just don't see it, but I'm in a minority. So.
Yeah, I like that spot there. I've seen the Packers. I've also seen the Chiefs as well being a little spot for him as well. Thinking Tyreek Hill replacement. But yeah, I think either one of those spots would be good for Christian Watson.
Man, I'm so happy you said all that about him.
Who, me?
Yeah, I'm very happy about it. It makes me feel good.
Why, do you feel the same way?
I think he's a wee bit overrated.
I do too.
A good bit overrated.
A funny story real quick, not to hold you up. I put a film out on my Debbie to Dynasty YouTube channel, right? And I did a film breakdown, and I put it out on Twitter that I didn't really believe that he was worth the hype. And his father has been all over me on Twitter. So I don't say anything bad about Christian Watson anymore because I'm a nice guy. And if it was my son, I'd be kind of pissed off too. So
Nice. All right, let's do some. We're gonna do something new here. We haven't done this in a while. It's this or that, which we usually do this or that with the ADP. This time we're gonna do this or that with rookies and vets.
It's time for this or that.
All right, the way this works is I'm gonna give you 2 guys, and you got to pick which one. If you're on the clock and they're both sitting there, you're looking at both of them. Which one are you taking? I'm gonna go to you first, Brandon, with this first one: Breece Hall or Dalvin Cook, and we're thinking of this in a dynasty perspective.
I'm going to have to go with Breece Hall. I'm going to roll the dice, and usually this is against everything about when I play C2C and Debbie leagues is you never undervalue NFL running backs, but Dalvin Cook has got some, he's got some wear on those tires. Breece Hall looks really good. I'm going to roll the dice knowing that I've got a young asset that I might have for 8 or 9 years versus Dalvin Cook, because I think we're getting very close to the Dalvin Cook sell season. And if I'd rather be out early on an NFL guy a year or 2 early than to be stuck with a declining asset. So I'm going to go with Breece Hall.
All right. I like
what if Breece Hall goes to Houston?
I think he's going to get the volume.
Yeah, right.
And I think he's going to get the rock because they got nothing else going on. So
if you watch the show, don't attack me. Thank you.
All right, Ron, I get this one to you on purpose here because I know you're a Ravens fan. So Kenneth Walker or J.K. Dobbins?
And he's my running back 1. Here, Rich.
Hitting you where it hurts, huh?
Hit me where it hurts because I love both players so much. I'm going J.K. Dobbins. Baltimore's going to run the ball, man. Baltimore is hopefully Ronnie Stanley's coming back. They added to the offensive line Morgan Moses. They're going to run the ball. Like, they were 6th in rushing with Devonta Freeman last year, who was over the hill and couldn't get – and I think he had like 3 runs over 20 yards in the season. Like, I'm taking Dobbins there. and I'm not hesitating.
All right, I think Gerson disagreed with you there.
Oh,
What else is
Gerson is a full believer in newer is better no matter what. So it's okay.
All right. The next one here for you, Brandon. Isaiah Spiller or AJ Dillon?
I'm gonna go with Spiller again. I like AJ Dillon. I've got lots of shares of AJ Dillon. I just can't trust him to be a long-term running back for the Packers. I know Aaron Jones is still on the team, and I know AJ Dillon got a lot of run last year, and people are thinking he might overtake that backfield, but I got to think Isaiah Spiller is just a better ball catcher out of the backfield and a little bit more elusive and got a little bit more lateral movement. AJ Dillon, as we know, he's really big and thick and powerful and stuff, but I think I'm going to go with Isaiah Spiller again. It's a risk not knowing landing spots, knowing that Dillon is on a great team with a good quarterback. So there is a risk there, but I'm still probably in the Debbie guy in me. I'm going to go with the young guy.
Nice. All right, let's do a couple of receivers here, Ryan. You got Garrett Wilson or Michael Pittman?
I'm going Garrett Wilson. I mentioned before about my 1A, 1B. He's my other one of that. He's so explosive, and I think he's a guy, no matter where he lands, he can succeed. I like Pittman a lot, but sometimes depending on these big body receivers get volume week after week, and there's double-digit targets week after week. I don't know if he has that skill set. I know Garrett Wilson get that because they're going to force feed him the ball because what he can do with the ball in his hands.
All right. We're going a lot of young guys here. I think so far we've gotten every single one of them that we picked a rookie, right?
No, I picked J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, you're right. You picked Dobbins. You're the one outlier there. All right, next one here, and I did this even before I knew you were an Eagles fan, so just happened to fall this way. Treylon Burks or Devonta Smith, Brandon?
I'm going with Devonta Smith, and I'm not saying this because I'm an Eagles fan, right? I think Devonta Smith is an ultimate space creator, and for wide receivers, for me, that's what the name of the game is getting open. And I've always said there's two reasons in the NFL why a wide receiver doesn't make it. Either you can't get open in practice, or you're not physical enough to handle the game. So Devonta Smith proved to us in year one that he can do both, and not knowing where Treylon Burks is going to end up, he might end up on a team that has two other receivers and might not get the targets. And I know that Smith is going to be fed the ball a lot. So I'm going to go with Smith.
All right. Yeah, I think I agree there too. I've actually kind of been dropping Burks in my rankings a little bit the more and more I watch him. And, unlike you, I don't watch them a year ago. I watched them after the season's over with. That's when I started watching them. And I know everyone loved Burks, initially, but I'm starting to be out on Burks a little bit. All right, Ryan, Drake London or Jerry Jeudy?
I think Jerry Jeudy. I'm still a believer in him. He gets crazy separation, which Brandon's talking about earlier. I'm a sucker for that, man. Like, I want guys here wide open, and he's been having just dirt at quarterback thrown his whole career.
Exactly.
And he was hurt last year. Everybody yapping about that just needs to shut up. He's a good wide receiver. He's going to get over wide open, and he has Russell Wilson thrown to him, who in his entire career has loved slot receivers till he got, other than DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett worked out of the slot, Doug Baldwin worked out of the slot, Golden Tate. Guess what? Jerry Jeudy's right there, and he's getting wide open. He does all that stuff. He's going to kill it for them.
Yeah,
I love Drake London, but I don't trust the volume like I do Jeudy, and Judy's just electric.
I like it. All right, and again, this one falls perfectly here because you went on and on about how much you love Jameson Williams.
This one, I'm glad this one makes me mad.
Jameson Williams or Darnell Mooney?
Yeah, most people are probably going to take Mooney because he is the only weapon there. But I just don't trust the Bears offense, and I don't know how much Fields is going to develop. I'm going to roll the dice with Jameson Williams. He's my number one receiver. I have to go. I just like his speed. I mean, Mooney's a great player, exciting young player, but I just have this feeling in a few years he's going to fade off. So I'm going to take Jameson Williams.
Yeah, I like that pick as well. I do love Mooney, but I think the upside of Williams is definitely where I would go as well. All right, let's get to the last segment of the night.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, Brandon, who do you have for your Forgotten Fantasy Player tonight?
Yeah, I didn't know if I was supposed to give you guys hints and you're supposed to guess, or am I supposed to just tell you?
You can just tell us. Yeah, we've done. You can do the hints if you want. We've done that before too.
No. All right. Well, I'm going to throw it out. Let's have some fun with this, right? It's a Carolina running back who played from 2006 to 2014. He won me my first Dynasty championship playing against the Giants in week, I think, 16 in the playoffs or whatever. And he's been one of my favorite players ever since.
Is it
I'm sorry?
D'Angelo Williams?
Yes, sir. Yeah, D'Angelo Williams.
I won a championship with him as well. That's why I knew.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. So I remember specifically D'Angelo Williams. I was losing by 20-something points. I ended up going to bed. He played the Giants and ended up running in the second half for 3 touchdowns and like 90 yards, and I won by like 3 points, right? So he's always been one of my favorite fantasy players, and I had him for many years, and he was really productive. I mean, that year he had 273 yards and 1,500 rushing yards and 18 TDs. He just tore it up, and he had very, very good productive years. He was a great dynasty player for many, many years playing for Carolina.
Yeah, he was that particular year. I remember too because I almost dropped him because he started off really, really slow. Like the first like 5-6 games, he wasn't doing much of anything. And then it wasn't dynasty back then for me, it was redraft. So I almost dropped him. And luckily I didn't because, I rode that second half of the season right down to a championship. So that's why I knew right away. He said, your Panthers running back? I was like, D'Angelo Williams, it's got to be who it is.
Yeah, well, him and Jonathan Stewart tag teamed for the longest time. They were great together.
I almost guessed him.
Did you? Yeah. Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Yeah. He was one of my favorite running backs. When he carried my team for years. I loved him. He was great.
Yep, and then he had like a resurgence too. Didn't he go to like
he had a year in Pittsburgh where he on the fantasy playoff runs when Lev Bell got hurt, he killed it.
Yep.
Yeah. Good player.
All right, that wraps the show up. Let's go around the room really quick. Give us your Twitter handle and tell us what you're working on. If you want to plug anything, we'll go to you first, Brandon.
Again, you can find me on Twitter at Debbie Deep Dive. The only thing I really want to plug, I told you at the beginning of the show, my podcast and thing is I want to talk about this right here. It's called the Debbie Summit. It's a big event that I'm hosting on Twitter and YouTube on my YouTube channel on May 22nd. It's going to be all about introducing Debbie and C2C to all of you Dynasty fans and try and get some of you guys to make the jump into Debbie and C2C. It's going to be great. It's going to be a 6-hour live feed event. I got tons of guests that are going to be on it. Everyone in the industry, a lot of big name. Ray Garbins is going to be on it, and Kane Fossil and Matt Waldman. And I got a great guest list lined up with a whole agenda already pretty much wrapped up. It's going to be co-hosted by myself and Felix Sharp from Campus to Canton and Matt Hicks from the Rookie Big Board. So again, it's May 22nd. It's going to be a great event, all to raise money for the children of Ukraine and the refugees.
Nice, that's awesome. Yeah, we've had a couple of those guys, Matt Hicks and Felix has been on the show as well.
It's just Kane.
Great.
Yep, you're right.
Kane. Yeah, Kane.
Kane's been on a lot.
Yeah, he always comes on. He loves coming on. We love having him on.
Yeah, good guy. Good guy.
All right, Ryan, what you got?
Find me on Twitter, Foss534. Find me here Wednesday nights. Make sure to check out our draft analyst. I'll be on for the first 2 hours. I'm going to pop somewhere else, and I'll probably be back at some point. We'll see how the draft goes and how the news goes. I'll probably be back, though, for that later on. Find me over at the SI Draft Bible on our podcast. It comes out Wednesday mornings.
All right, good stuff. As always, guys, you can follow me on Twitter at Jeff Lambert77. And like Ryan mentioned, we are going to be live for all 3 days of the draft. We are splitting it up this year. Last year, me and Ryan went 4 hours, and by the end of it, we were basically spent. So me and Ryan got the first 2 hours, then we'll hand it off to some of our other hosts on the Going for Two Live network, and then same thing with Friday and Saturday as well. So be sure to check us out. All right, for Brandon, for Ryan, I'm Jeff. We'll see y'all next week.
Thank you.